Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Nicholas and I'm coding in public. Today we're going to continue to develop my thumbnail generation app that slowly but surely is becoming a real product. We're going to have a create page and a gallery page. You can view your saved thumbnails. You can load them back into your editor and continue iterating and changing. We are in part 2 of our backend series, and today we're going to add the function to save your thumbnails. So follow along and let's see how we get there. So we're going to start by opening our Claude agent, and then we're going to tell him, please give me the SQL code to create a table in Supabase that saves our thumbnails, the JSON data, and the image URL, and is connected to our user ID. There you go. We will send this off, and then from there we will need to go and log in again into our Supabase backend and go to the SQL editor and then copy paste the code. We're going to open the thumbnail generator tab. We're going to go to the SQL editor. We're going to open a new window, and then we can actually copy the code that was given us from the Claude agent. I'll create an SQL code for the Supabase table that stores thumbnails with their associated data and links to user IDs. Well, very good. That's what we needed. We're going to trust our agent here. We're going to copy this code. Let's quickly have a look what this SQL code will do and create. This SQL code creates a comprehensive table with columns: ID, primary key, user ID, foreign key to Supabase, to the user ID, yes, title, thumbnail title, image URL, URL where the generated thumbnail image is stored, thumbnail data, and created at and updated app. We're going to go back to our SQL editor and copy paste that code. We're going to let it run. Let's see if it's running with success. No rows returned. Very nice. Let's quickly have a look at the table editor. And we see we have two tables here now. One is for the users, that basically saves the login and the users, and one is for the thumbnails. So table has been created. Fantastic. The next step is, in the table, we can only save a link that connects to our image. That's why it's an image URL. It's kind of if you're saving in a table a link to your Google Sheets, for example. That's the same concept. The actual image is not saved in the table, but needs to be saved in the database in a so-called bucket. So that's what we're going to do now as a next step. Okay, perfect. The table has been created. Please also create a bucket, or tell me how to create a bucket where those images are saved. That creates a signed URL link to the thumbnail. If I understood this correctly, that's something we have to set up in Supabase, but I want the agent to give us concrete instructions. Let's see what he did. There you go, creating the storage bucket. You have two options. Option number one, using the Supabase dashboard. Easiest. Yeah, let's do that. Go to Supabase project dashboard, navigate to storage, click new bucket, name it thumbnails, set it to public or private. Back to Supabase in our project, the thumbnail generator. Let's go to the main page, and then here, storage. Okay, we clicked on storage, and that opened this files section and create new bucket. I think that's what we want. This is also new land for me. I've never done that before. Just a few weeks ago, I didn't know how to code. I never added a backend to a project, and now we're building out the backend of an entire application and building in public. Very exciting times. I hope you enjoy my content and you can follow along. So the bucket name will be thumbnails. It's not a public one. Restrict file size. I'm not sure if we need to do that. Restrict the tabs while we create. And a bucket named thumbnails has been created, and that's where we're going to save all our thumbnails to. Once we're done with this step, our thumbnails will be saved. So when we click refresh or we log in new, all our thumbnails that we have saved and have created before will be actually there, and not all the work has been vanished. So it's a very big step. Now that we created the table, we created the bucket, Now we are creating an API route that connects the backend to our front end. How you can understand API routes is basically an intermediate layer between the front end and the backend, so they don't communicate directly. The front end code is basically your public face is on the internet, and everybody can inspect and see the code that you have in the front end. So you don't want to have too much data directly in the front end, or any keys or anything that you don't want to be shared. Also, private data needs to be protected from the front end because we don't want anybody to be able to access that. So that's why we have the backend where all the data is stored securely. And to add an extra safety layer, we're gonna implement a API route that kind of talks and communicates in between them. And that's how professional apps are built. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, perfect. I created the bucket called thumbnails and the table is created. Now I would like you to create an API route called thumbnails communicating with the thumbnail table. So now we're actually going back into the coding. Now the cursor agent actually needs to create some files and write some code before everything was done in the backend. I've successfully created the thumbnail API route. Here's what was implemented. Created files, backend, server, thumbnail, TS, service layer with functions for creating thumbnails, getting all user thumbnails, getting a single thumbnail, updating thumbnails, deleting thumbnails, uploading thumbnails. What I understood and what I learned, there is a framework called CRUD, C-R-U-D, which stands for create, update, read, and delete. So those are the main functions that you can always do with a table. And in this API route and in the front end, you want to give the user all those options to basically delete a thumbnail, update a thumbnail, to load a thumbnail, so read. It's just a concept that you can have in mind while you are coding with AI, that the CRUD concept basically represents all those functions. And that's something you can also tell your cursor agent. Last step, I want my editor component to show a button that lets me save thumbnails in my front end. I want to be able to save the JSON metadata, and I want to also be able to save the base 64 image file. This is something I last night learned with ChatGPT. What we save in the table is the JSON metadata of your thumbnail, which is the title and other settings, as well as a URL link that links to the bucket where your actual image file is saved. When the image is called upon and uploading to the front end, what it's called is the base 64 file. I guess that's just the way the data is being processed to the front end. I told the agent just now that we need to have a button that actually saves both of this, and then we're gonna try it out and see if that works. We're gonna create a thumbnail, we're gonna save it, and we're gonna see in the backend if it has been added to our table. The agent is done with that step. It says, now let's create a summary document explaining everything. Perfect. I've successfully implemented the save functionality to your thumbnail. Here's what I added. Okay, complete set of functions: upload, create, save, get, update, delete. Not basically the CRUD functions. I added a save button that appears in the hover alongside the download button. Added the functionality. Well, look, sounds great. Let's start the server and have a look. Can you please start both backend and frontend server to check it out? Okay, we are back to our thumbnail generator app on our landing page with the login that we have created in last episode. Okay, let's log in. Login is successful. Amazing. We are now in our thumbnail generator. Let's just create a thumbnail. Please create a thumbnail that shows me a luxury house with swimming pool. Or click generate thumbnail. So we can either upload a prior thumbnail or we can just generate it from scratch. Let's see what it gets. All right, that's a start. So now when I hover, I can actually download it, but I can also save it. Very nice. Let's click on save. It's saving. Failed to upload image. We have an issue. All right. Let's click on the issue. We're going to copy the issue and we're going to go back. Create a house, a luxury house with swimming pool. All right. Similar vibe, slightly different. but also cool. All right, let's press save. It's saving, and again, it has failed to upload. We're gonna copy. We're gonna go back. Yes, let's switch to Supabase authentication. So apparently we've been creating our own authentication system and not using this Supabase authentication system, which made it difficult now to upload an image. Obviously, that was never my intention. In the last episode, I also said that we want to implement the module from Supabase for authentication, but apparently this hasn't happened. Let's fix that, and I think then we can fix also the upload. Beautiful house with swimming pool number 4. Let's try to finally save it. It's saving. Thumbnail saved successfully. Amazing. We got it done. It is now working. We can actually save our thumbnails. Let's have a quick look. Now back in our database at our backend in Supabase on the thumbnails table. Look at that. We have created a untitled thumbnail. Well, fair enough. It has saved a URL. It has saved the metadata, and it has been created. Fantastic. So that step worked. Let's go to the next chapter. Now that we managed to save our thumbnails in the back end, we will actually also need to view it in the front end. How we do that is we set up a gallery tab where we can view all our saved thumbnails that will actually read the data that we have in our backend. So I started a new Claude, and let's see how it goes. Okay, you will find a handoff docs folder that is outside of the front end and outside of the backend. There's also one inside front end, but ignore this. There you will find a handover document from the last agent called Migration Authentication Supabase. Please have a look so you are up to date of what we have been doing. As a next step, I want you now to create a front-end gallery where we can see 12 saved thumbnails per page that actually reads the data in our thumbnail table that we have generated in the Supabase backend. Let's send this off. Okay, so in the last chapter, with the error handling, there were problems with the authentication. As I mentioned, we had the authentication set up from scratch instead of actually connecting to the Supabase module. So we had to change that, migrate the authentication process to the Supabase authentication module, which we did. We finally were able to save our thumbnail in the table as just shown prior. And now I'm excited that we're actually gonna create this gallery view that can pull and fetch the data from our Supabase table, the thumbnail table, and add it to the gallery to the front end so we can see that. Once the agent is done, we're going to log in again into our account and have a look if we can see that gallery view. So what we're basically tackling at the moment is the R from root, which is read. So we are implementing a read function. The gallery, the front end can read through, again, an API route, the table in the backend. Perfect. I've successfully created a front-end gallery for your thumbnail generator application. Here's what I've committed and implemented. Summary of changes. Created a get user thumbnail. So this is a reading command. Function that fetches 12 thumbnails per page. Added pagination. That is great. Used Supabase range. Created a gallery page. Yes. Added a navigation that we need to be between the creation and the gallery. Very good. Back to our thumbnail generator, and this looks absolutely great. I love how our product is developing. We have a create page, we have a gallery page, we have created a beautiful navigation bar on top to log out. That looks much better than before. So we can actually create a picture and save it. Please create me a picture with a swimming pool and a luxury villa. All right, we will generate the thumbnail. It is generating. Amazing. We will save that picture and we will get the pop-up message down here. Thumbnail saved successfully. Now when we go to the gallery, you can see we have already saved 2 items. We can download that. We can delete that. We can edit it. So let's click on edit. It will be loaded back into the editor. And from here, I can change it. Like, for example, make sure the sky is very blue and sunny. And we can iterate that version of a picture or thumbnail. And there you go. Now we have a blue sunny sky and the same house. Amazing. This is obviously just an example of an image and how we iterate. If we go more into the thumbnail direction, that will look a little bit different. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm happy that works. We are saving thumbnails. We can go back and iterate, and that finishes our chapter. So now we have a gallery and a creation page. You can actually save your thumbnails into the gallery. Our application now has a memory. This is amazing progress. Our backend is developing just nicely, and bit by bit, we're getting to a real product. Next time, we're going to implement templates and we're going to introduce smart limits, because no one wants to start from scratch every time. If you like what you see, please subscribe, leave a comment, and see you in the next episode.